I'm, of course, your host, Brian Beatty. So in the last segment, we talked a lot about why people are selling their homes in 2026. And the majority of people are selling because they represent they understand the opportunity for financial gain, right? And if you were really listening, not kind of just hearing, but listening, then you probably caught yourself thinking something like, man, that kind of sounds like my situation, or maybe the opposite. I don't know if that applies to me. I'm kind of on the fence. And honestly, that's exactly where most homeowners are right now. They're not all in on selling, but they're not completely comfortable staying either. They're kind of in this middle ground. I think I should do something. I just don't know. And here's the problem, right? Most people try to solve that feeling with like a yes or no question. Should I sell or should I not? But that question, I think, is pretty simplistic for the market we're in right now, because this is not a black and white market. It's a strategy market, like I was saying earlier. So the better question, I think, would be like, does it make sense for me to sell based on my situation right now? And those are two completely different conversations, right? So what I want to do in this segment is give you a framework, a way to think about this decision clearly, without pressure, without guessing, without relying on headlines or what your neighbor said or what some person that's just interested in views is saying on YouTube that says, the end of the world is right around the corner. And so as we go through this, I'd say answer the questions for yourself. Like maybe you're driving right now, maybe you're at home, maybe you're watching online on YouTube or whatever, but just kind of like mentally check in, because if you find yourself saying yes to even one or two of these, then that might not be something to ignore. It could be something to explore. So let's start here. If you sold your home today, how much money would you actually walk away with? And I want to slow down for a second, because most people think they know the answer, but they really don't. Maybe they've looked at Zillow, or they've talked to a neighbor, or they've seen other listings come up in the neighborhood. They see what's going on down the street, but they really haven't broken it down, right? And because the reality is again, we have conversations with people every day, as we've sold over 1,500 homes here in Charleston. So we've got a team, and we're actively engaged in helping people buy and sell and invest in real estate on a daily basis. And, there is a massive misconception with regard to home values. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that people want to hit the easy button. And I'm not knocking that. I mean, if there was a real solution that existed that allowed me to go online and say, what's my home worth? And it actually told me the truth, that would be amazing. But as I've mentioned so many times on this program, it just simply doesn't exist. And the reason for that is because all of these automated systems, whether it's a Zillow Zestimate or a website that says get your cash offer now, or even the automated stuff we use, which is literally best in class. We have the absolute best automated home pricing evaluation tool you can get, and it's still wrong. And the reason is there is no system that can quantify your condition as it relates to other properties it's comparing itself to. It doesn't know anything about the upgrades in your home, nor is there really a way to quantify that systematically. And they also don't know what the level of motivation was that caused those competing homes to sell. Maybe you've had 2 distress sales in your neighborhood, and that's significantly bringing down this automated version of what your home is worth. But in reality, when you list the property on the market, you're going to get way more than that because of the things that you've done to the house that home didn't have, or whatever. They're missing information. They can't provide you with a clear picture, right? So if you had to write that number down right now, right, the net proceeds after everything, could you realistically do it? Or would you be guessing? Because that's what we're seeing in a lot of the market right now, is a lot of people that are sitting on a lot more equity than they actually realize they have. And when they actually see the real number, it kind of changes how they think, or it opens up some more opportunities for them. So if you found out you could walk away with 200, 300, maybe more in equity, right? What would that allow you to do that you're not doing right now? Would you pay something off? Would you invest differently? Would you buy a home that better fits your life? Would you create more flexibility for your future? I mean, because that number is very meaningful. And for the majority of people, that represents the largest kind of amount of money that they have to their name. in the form of equity tied to the home they own. So this is a financial strategy conversation, and most people don't even really get that far. So that's the first question, is how much would you actually walk away with? How much cash do you have in your house, right? So switching gears, how well does your current home actually fit your life today? Not when you bought it, not when interest rates were at historic lows, but today, right now. If you were buying a home right now, what would you choose differently than what you're living in now? And that's a pretty powerful question, I think, because a lot of people pause when they hear that and they realize, well, honestly, I would change this or that, or I'd want this, or this doesn't work for me. And that's just, they just don't have that in their home right now. And that just means that for them, something has changed. Maybe the space doesn't work anymore, or maybe the layout feels off, or they want to be closer to something, family, friends, work, water, whatever. Or maybe they just feel like they've outgrown it, right? And so the deeper question is, if nothing changed, would you still be happy there in a year or 2 or 3 from now? Not just okay, but happy. Because if the answer is no, then staying is kind of like a neutral decision. It's decision that is the decision is to delay a change you already know is coming. So then it kind of brings in the timing aspect of it. Now now this one might be more important, which is, what is it actually costing you to stay where you are? And I don't mean your mortgage payment. I mean like the hidden costs, right? Because most people only focus on one thing. I don't want to give up my low interest rate, which is totally fair. But let's look at the other side. What is the cost of staying in a home that doesn't fit your lifestyle? What is the cost of not accessing your equity? What is the cost if the market softens and you sell for less later, which is a legitimate possibility? What's the cost of waiting another year or 2 or 3? Because here's the truth that most people miss. Waiting is not necessarily neutral. Waiting is in and of itself a decision, and every decision has a cost. So if you fast forwarded 12 months and nothing changed, would you be okay with that? Or would you be frustrated that you didn't act when you had the chance? So let's talk about timing, right? If you were going to sell, would you rather do it now or later when there's more competition? Because here's what we're seeing right now in Charleston, right? Inventory is still relatively tight, but growing slowly. Buyers are still out there, but they're more selective. And homes are selling, but prices have definitely flattened. So if more sellers come to the market later this year and buyers have more options, do you think that gives you more leverage or less? Because timing the market perfectly is almost impossible, right? But positioning yourself within the market, that's, I think, where smart decisions are made. And right now, we're in a window where sellers still have an advantage, but it's narrowing. And there are stats, and there's, I don't have the survey in front of me, but there was a survey that came out from Realtor.com saying that the overwhelming majority of people believe that right now is the best time to sell, but if they wait, they might not get as much as they could get now. So we've also got like a little bit of an expectations issue in our market, but we can talk about that later. I think the final question is, do you actually know what your options are, right? Because this is where I think people feel stuck, right? They think, if I sell, I'm going to have to figure everything else out all at once. And it feels overwhelming, right? But the reality is there are always multiple ways to approach this. You could sell and buy at the same time. You could sell first, then rent short term. You could put your home on the market with a contingency that says, hey, I'll accept your offer, but you have to give me time to go and find a suitable replacement property. And if I can't, then the deal's off. Or you could keep your current home as an investment. You could use our property management company to maximize your cash flow and turn it into an income-producing asset. Or you could structure things in a way that reduces risk. So if you had a clear plan, if you understood your options ahead of time, and if you knew what the process would look like, would that decision feel easier? I think the answer is yes, because for most people, it's not the market that holds them back. It's the uncertainty that we're dealing with right now. And information is power. So I think the bottom line is, you don't need to guess. You don't need to rely on headlines. And you definitely don't need to make a rushed decision. You just need clarity, right? Clarity on what your home is worth and what you could net, right? What your walk away cash would be, how well your home fits your life now, what it's costing you to stay, and what your options actually are. And if you're sitting there and you're kind of thinking, well, honestly, I don't know the answer to some of those. I mean, honestly, that's where we come in. So what we do is we help you just walk through all of this step by step so you can make smart, confident decisions, right? So no pressure, no obligation, just clarity. If you'd like to reach out to us, we'll map it out together. Feel free to give me a call or text me. This is my personal number, 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065. You can visit us online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And of course, remember, check us out on YouTube and all of our socials, or check out our podcast on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play. Just search the Brian Beatty Team, and you'll find us.